chosen to watch this video that covers the same material as the reading, just make sure that you have your notes out ready to go. First thing I want to cover is the structure of a speech. A structure is not linear. It does not go from point A to point B to point C and then point D. It actually goes in a circular pattern. So you start at the beginning, you have the body of your speech and you work through your main points, but you want to end back where you started. The difference is that your audience should now have a better understanding of your ideas. So how do you do that? Well, you have to write really good introductions and conclusions. So you need to prepare the introduction and conclusion last. So I want you to actually write the body of your speech first with your main points. And this is so you can be sure of what you're saying and what your main points are, and then go back and write your introduction and conclusion. Your introduction should be no longer than 10 to 15% of your speaking time, and your conclusion should be no longer than 10% of your speaking time. I also suggest that you write out your introduction and your conclusion word for word, and that you do your best to memorize them. Why is this? Well, essentially because you want to start your speech out really strong and you want to end it really strong. So you want to know exactly what you're going to say. Also, of course, it should be relevant and directly tied to your speech. Let's talk about the functions of an introduction. The first function of your introduction is, of course, to let your audience know what the purpose of your speech is. Now, you do this with a thesis. Here's an example. So right now, let's see if countries have continued to uphold our basic human rights or if they have violated our basic human rights. This is essentially what the speech will be exploring, and so I've told my audience right away what to listen for. The second function of your speech is to preview the structure. So in an introduction, you want to tell people how you will be building your speech so that they know what to be listening for. Here's an example of how to preview your structure or how to tell your audience the how of your speech. First, we will examine what free speech means and what our rights are. Then we will look at a case from China in which that right was violated. Then we will look at a similar situation in Africa where the government upheld their citizens' rights to free speech. Doing this prepares your audience to listen for the key points of your speech. Now, if your speech is very short or has a humorous structure, you may not need to do this in such a structured way. Finally, function 3 is to, of course, get their attention. Are they listening and watching you? And finally, gaining their goodwill and making them want to listen and watch you. So what is one strategy you can use in your introduction? You can always tell a story. Stories really draw people in. People are familiar with the structure of a story. They can relate to them. They have feelings about them. They can also help people empathize and care about what you're going to say. Humor. Now, humor is really tricky to use. It does create a connection with your audience. It relaxes them. However, make sure that it is appropriate to your content area. And make sure that you're not making fun of anybody or any group of people in a way that might be offensive. You don't want to offend your audience. You can also refer to recent or historical events if they relate to your topic. This does help create a shared experience if you reference something that everybody in the audience knows about and can be quite effective. You can also refer to one of your personal interests. Is it something you're passionate about? Is it something that you have experience in? You can share a personal anecdote if you have experience in it. Just make sure that you are an actual expert or that your experience is authentic. It's something the audience can relate to. Otherwise, it may not be a great start to your speech. Another attention-getting strategy is by using startling statistics. It immediately brings attention to a problem and it shows that your issue is important. Just make sure to cite your source and that the source is credible. You may also use a quote. Why does it work? You're borrowing that person's credibility if they are an expert in the field. It can cause an emotional response and draw your audience in. Just make sure that the quote is relevant and accurate. I would not use a super long quote. I would use something shorter that you can easily memorize. All right, you can also use a question. Why? It makes your audience think about what you're going to talk about. It points their brain in the right direction. Now, you don't have to expect an answer out loud. That's a rhetorical question when you ask a question and don't expect an answer. But you should know that your audience will be answering the question, at least in their brains. So you want to be really careful with what questions you ask and make sure that you know all the answers. You don't want to ask a question that is going to send your audience's brain in another direction or automatically against you. Okay, so what about the conclusion? Conclusion also serves functions. Its number one function is to prepare an audience for the end of a speech. This happens in two different ways. One is language. Now that we have seen how this problem started, after learning about blank, now you can understand blank. Finally, I want to return to the idea. All of these are things we can say to let the audience know that the end of our speech is near. You can also use physical cues. If you've been walking around the room, you go back to the center of the room or stage, or you return to a slide that looks similar to your first slide. All of these things prepare your audience for the end of your speech. The end of your speech is also an opportunity for you to summarize and create a sense of closure, bring your audience back to your main idea, help them see how everything is related. Now, in shorter speeches, I wouldn't do a whole summary. If your speech is only a minute long, you don't need to summarize what you've already said. Your audience already knows it. In longer speeches, you may need to restate your points, but try to do so without a laundry list style, and really just do so briefly with the most essential parts of your speech. Finally, it's also an opportunity, if you need to do this, to have any final appeals or challenges. So this really depends on the purpose of your speech. You might ask them to do something differently than they currently do it. You might ask them to remember to feel a certain way or to share your message with others. Another strategy is the mirror structure. So think about it this way. If you started your speech with a quote, you might want to return to this same quote and help your audience understand it in a new way. Or you might want to include a new quotation that draws a comparison or contrast to your first quote. If you started with a question, you might want to return to it and point out how now their answer should be different or more knowledgeable. Or you might pose a new question that helps the audience acknowledge their new knowledge. If you started with a startling quote or statistic, you might want to return to it. If you started with a story, maybe at the beginning in the introduction, you only tell the first part of the story, and then in the conclusion, you finish your story. You can see that these mirroring structures really help bring your audience back to the beginning and see the connection to your introduction. But do what feels natural and what makes sense for your topic. Okay, so that's it. You now know that when you're using introductions and conclusions, they should have a circular pattern, and you have some new strategies.